Critical thinking we keep hearing as a buzzword. So everywhere we go, every school we go, or everybody we talk to, they say critical thinking. And what I have realized, what I have observed is that it is being interchangeably used for any other skill. So if you do something creative, it is critical thinking. If you do something analytical, it is creative thinking. If you solve a difficult problem, it is critical thinking. Can you tell our audience what exactly critical thinking is? Hi, I'm Abhishek Kariwal. I'm the co-founder of Open Door Education.
I'm Suman Dubey and I teach 3 subjects: biology, mathematics, and physics.
Hi, myself Shrutika Savant. I take computers.
Have you ever wondered, in every classroom you'll find students who'd ask amazing questions, but then there will be others who will just wait for the answers. Today's Critical Thinking podcast is all about that. I am sitting with amazing set of teachers from Children's Academic Group of School, whose classroom does not begin with the answers, but with the question.
Thank you.
Let's begin with one question. What do you like the most about teaching? Who would like to take this question?
I
Please go ahead.
will answer that. One thing that I like about teaching is when I enter the class and I have my students looking up to me and expecting me to give some answers to their questions. My classroom does not have boundaries. My classroom does not have hesitation. They're free to ask questions, and that's what I love. I love the challenging question because that helps me grow.
Interesting.
No 2 days are the same in a classroom, and that's what I love about teaching, because all other professions become predictable at the end of the day, but teaching is such that on any given day, children have a wonderful way of surprising you. So some days they are bubbling with enthusiasm, some days maybe not so much, but every day there's something new to look forward to. So I would say that that is the most remarkable thing about teaching for me.
Can you share any surprising anecdote, any moment?
Anecdotes in the sense, right now in my class we are doing Julius Caesar. So I thought of giving them a bit of the historical background and all. So we went to National Geographic and we looked at the pictures of the forum and all. So that got them really excited, because otherwise why would they care about a man who lived 2000 years ago?
Right.
So for them, this becomes a thing that they can actually place it back in history, maybe go back in time. So all that makes a huge difference to their lives, because we, at the end of the day, they're only 14 or 15. Even the oldest among them are just teenagers. So we have to cater to their varied desires.
It is also because like every year you get to see different set of students.
Absolutely.
And you get new surprises every year, new way of thinking.
Yes, that also I would say it can be a challenge, and it can be something to look forward to also, because you have a character in every class. Honestly, now with children being exposed to so much media and all that, you don't get those, as children. I mean, if we look back on our lives, and certainly I went to school a very long time ago, and the concept of a classroom was very, very hackneyed and very defined. Children who are quiet were considered to be good children. But today we want the classroom to be buzzing. We want children to stand up and ask questions, give their perspectives. So I think in Children's Academy we are doing all that. We want children to break out of that mold and do something new. Yes, why don't you?
Yeah, as a teacher, like I will add to what Madhvi Miss has said, because we are absolutely true that every day is a challenge for us, because it's no new 2 days are same for us. So it is also a way, when I look back to my past as when I was a student, and when I used to see my teachers, they used to walk in the classroom and give us just those lecture method that used to be there. And today when we see with new technologies, with AI coming into it, and the children are more hacked onto it than what we are there. So they have many questions, and they are more advanced than us. So they do ask me a lot of questions to us, which also keeps us also on the toes. So it's every day for us is also like unlearning what we have already learned, and relearning and learning something new, and to keep up with the pace with them. So when we are trying to keep a pace with them, it's also becoming very important for them to keep them hooked up in the classrooms. And that's a challenging what I feel in the classroom, which also keeps me, like, yes, this is something new I have to do for them. And that's how critical thinking came into the picture. And then we also like learn many things out there. And that's how, yes, I can say today my classroom is no more the way the classroom is to be with my teachers, how they used to be there. But it's a different scenario that I can see now, the change in my classroom here now.
So just I'll add to that it's interesting to note that teachers themselves have to be teachers in the current day. You have to keep reinventing.
Yes.
As you said that you have to keep learning about the AI tools and the new ways to teach. Yes, Reena ma'am.
I want to add something to what all the teachers have said, and that is today we need to create an inclusive classroom. We have students coming from different or diverse backgrounds, they have different learning capabilities. So, as a teacher, if I have to deliver the same content to everyone, there are different types of methodologies that have to come into action. And you have to ensure that everybody has acquired that knowledge. And in the process, a teacher also grows as an individual. Over the years, we become, really good at doing things. And the critical thinking sessions do help us a lot in achieving our objectives.
And Shrutika ma'am, you being a computer science teacher, how do you see your subject taken up by the students? Because students already have a lot of knowledge about computers these days. So what's your take on computer science?
So basically, this is the interesting subject because students, when they come for the lecture, they are more curious to know which topic we are going to study, which software we are going to learn. And when you introduce that software, they are curious to know, okay, then what about this option? If I use this option, what will be there? Then if I use the another option, what will happen? So that makes me feel more happy when I introduce those software to them. One of the software I can just tell you, when we learn MIT app development, which is basically to develop an app, and that app will work on your mobile phone. So when you show that app on the phone, students get so interested that they have created this app. Okay, and then they go home and they try, and then they connect their phone with the computer and they show it to their parents that, see, this is what I have created today. So this is what I feel that this subject is going to be very interesting, very interesting.
So now they can create also. Earlier it was about coding, now they can create
Yes.
stuff. Let me tell to the audience that the teachers with me are the first ever critical thinking teachers in our country. So we have a lot of unpacking to do about critical thinking from them. So I'll shift gears and ask some questions related to critical thinking. So critical thinking we keep hearing as a buzzword. So everywhere we go, every school we go, or everybody we talk to, they say critical thinking. And what I have realized, what I have observed is that it is being interchangeably used for any other skill. So if you do something creative, it is critical thinking. If you do something analytical, it is creative thinking. If you solve a difficult problem, it is critical thinking. But can you tell our audience what exactly critical thinking is? In your understanding, in your words, what exactly critical thinking? Yes, Sumana ma'am.
What I feel is critical thinking is not merely creating something. Let's take an example. I want to create an app. Now, I have to do my part of research. For that, I have to go into the detail of it. Why am I doing it? Which audiences will I cater to? How is it going to affect the audiences? Is it going to have a positive impact, negative impact? The detailed investigation that is involved in creating that app, and what are the results? How is it going to affect? What are the repercussions that will come up? Will it engage the audience and will it give a positive result, or will it prove a negative result on the audience? That all thinking,
Evaluation.
yes, all thinking, interpretation of the given situation, coming up with a positive solution. I feel that's what critical thinking enables you to do so.
Yes, Reena.
See, I basically believe that critical thinking, we are not talking just of one skill. It's a culmination of many things. Like it includes identifying a problem, identifying possible solutions, analyzing those solutions, taking a decision, and then again evaluating whether what decision you have taken is correct or you need to have something else in place. So everything, it's basically everything put together, it gives you this one particular skill, that is critical thinking.
Interesting. Anyone else would like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to what the teachers have already said. is that it's used very loosely, like you said. I mean, people use it like a jargon, and many times they have absolutely no idea. I think that from my own subject for history, I would say that it's not enough to look at one source, for example. You have to corroborate it with other sources.
Right.
So when you look at it in a 360-degree way, you're looking at in depth, you are evaluating various sources, and then you're arriving at a certain solution. So that could be termed as critical thinking. So you don't jump the gun and simply come to a conclusion very fast. That is what I would say.
So don't jump the gun. Do not reach to the conclusion really
Yes.
fast. You evaluate
Yes.
each and every evidence, text. Interesting. So you have been doing critical thinking, teaching critical thinking to your kids for the past 2 years, and some of you for the past 1 year. Can you share one interesting moment from your critical thinking class that has happened in the recent past?
I would like to answer that question first before the others, because I remember I had one student who is very reserved and very shy, and in a normal classroom he is generally in his own world, not trying to communicate with others, but he took part in critical thinking, thinking that it is just a medium of me learning something. But when he came and when he came up with the concept, when I was teaching them the concepts, I was very surprised when he came up with good ideas, when he came up with his version of questions. And the questions that he was asking gave me this tiny bit of satisfaction that, okay, fine, this is the skill that this boy has, and he knows how to speak, he just doesn't want to speak with the others. So that gave him the confidence that I am also a valued person and I can also contribute to good healthy discussions. So that's the power of critical thinking, I guess.
Interesting. So critical thinking is all about questioning, asking better questions. So do you think that if a student come to know that hey, in this class we don't have to answer, but we can question anything, so does that give them a little bit of relaxation or sense of ease when they have that realization? Otherwise, when in a class, in a regular class, due to paucity of time or due to various reasons, they sometimes hold back questions, or they have to focus more on the answers or learning. So do you think it becomes more free flowing, or they get a platform to ask more questions?
I like to answer to this question. This is what you said is absolutely true, because this is very true that in the class of just for 30 minutes when we are having a normal classes, the children they do not know exactly what kind of question they need to ask. Many of them questions they just want for the sake of asking questions, or sometimes the questions are because somebody is asking questions, I need to also ask questions. They raise their hand and ask questions, and then it becomes like sometimes the teachers have to say them, okay, wait, if you still have doubts, and please come outside, we'll solve your problems and problems outside. But I feel now, since critical thinking has come into the pictures, and the students who have because we have selected set of students, so in this critical thinking classrooms now, since now they are understanding what is actual critical thinking questions can be and how it can be there. So now I can see how curated questions have started coming up now. So they now know exactly what kind of question needs to be asked. It has to be related to the topic.
Right.
What are their difficulties, and what part they have not understood, what is the word that they have not interpreted, that they are understanding. Because as we are doing in critical thinking, that first it is needed to interpret whatever the given solution problems are, or what statement is there. They themselves are doing a reading and pre-read and post-reading and everything, and then they are coming up with the question. So yes, I can see the quality of the questions that has been coming up from the students is much better as compared to what is to be prior. So that, yes, definitely there's a change that we can see there.
So what you are saying is that it is not only about asking question, but relevant question.
Relevant question.
It has to be related to, it has to have some objective. It cannot be any question.
Any questions, absolutely.
So that's an important skill to have.
Yes, I would just like to add something to this. My grade 6 children who are there in the critical thinking class, they are taught one topic, differentiation between facts and anecdotes and opinions. Now they are actually able to apply this in the science class. What is a fact? How to arrive, at certain solutions to problems based on the fact and not rely on opinions. So that is one, a major achievement of this particular sessions which they have taken for a 6th grader.
Interesting. Okay, do you think it also helps students to learn certain concepts better? So I'd like you all to explain our audience that if we take an example of a concept and how critical thinking would help them learn that better. So let us take an example of, let us say, gravitation. So we have similar examples in the program.
Yeah.
We teach student gravitation by, let us say we give them a demo that a ball is falling down. Or we drop any object, every object falls down, and we establish that hey, there is gravity. Because of gravity there is a pull, and the ball, everything falls down. Do you think this explanation is sufficient? Although teachers cannot go on explaining, after that it is the onus of the students to take it further. So how would a critical thinker take this explanation forward? Should he agree to this, or should he have some questions related to this?
As far as gravitation, let's take that example. Yes, like I did that in my regular class, not the critical thinking class. We have this chapter of Newton's motion. So there I was teaching gravitation, and I took a ball, I took a paper, and I had a handkerchief, and I threw all of them down. So of course gravity acted upon them. Then one child stood up and said, "Ma'am, fine, I accept that gravity is pulling them down. What if when I throw the ball up, why is it going up and not coming down?" And I was like, a very good question. Now you tell me, why is that happening?
Right.
So there, from there we took the concept to buoyancy and friction, and so that led to a open discussion for others also. Okay, I can also ask questions, or I asked them, "Ki aeroplane is in the air. Why is it not falling down? Gravity is still acting on it. Why is it not coming down?" So such questions help the students understand the topic not only from the concept which is mentioned in the textbook, but otherwise, because then they can relate it from their personal experience and bring it on the table in the classroom.
Interesting. So the act of asking that question, you are saying that is what is the relevant question, and
Yes.
it belongs to a critical thinking exercise.
It led to the spark of critical thinking.
Led to the spark.
It led to the path of exploring
Thinking it.
more and asking more questions. Relevant, yes, we can relate it to the concept, but at least the child took up the courage to come up and ask. Probably he would have been hesitant. If I ask, what will I look like? I look like a fool or something. But no, he did ask a very good question, that if an object is going up, is gravity not acting on that?
Interesting. All right. So now I'll take up some questions which are here, but some of those have been discussed already. So is critical thinking classes that you're taking, is it helping you also to transfer some of those ideas to the subjects that you're teaching? Yes, ma'am.
This is especially true for debate, because a lot of children, they are very excited about debates, and they stand up and they start imitating Arnab Goswami, like screaming their lungs out. But we don't want that. We want points which are actually conceptually right, like she said, and we want people to reason properly.
Right.
So I think this really helps, because we did all those fallacies, and one of them is the circular reasoning that you clearly point out in your book, which is so helpful, because children now understand that they're really going round in circles. So many times they think they're reasoning so well and they pat themselves on their backs, but really nothing is proven. So that's why I think this really helps in debate, and you can transfer skills from this to English, and other places, and history also we have debates. So it really helps because you can think clearly, and so many of our children now, I think they understand that not every argument has the same value. So certainly critical thinking helps them develop and transfer those skills to other subjects also.
Interesting. Yes, Shrutika.
So I would also like to answer this. When I teach actually using online websites, or when you're getting some link from any phishing website, which actually looks, it's a real one, which is sending you the mail or telling you that you have won a reward, or if you click on this, then you will get some points and that. So I make students think that is it actually coming from the authentic website? If yes, then first you need to check the website. Okay. Second thing, even nowadays you get calls from banks that I'm calling from HDFC Bank and I need your account number. I want to transfer 20,000 to your account. So yeah, so basically when the call comes, basically we have a discussion that ma'am, I had a call like this from a bank and they are saying that we will transfer 20,000 to your account. So then my question is, what did you thought at that moment? Okay, did you got excited and did you share the number, or will you think on it? You will think, you will evaluate, you will even take help of your parents at that time. So that is basically they are using the critical thinking over there when they get such mails or such calls.
Yes.
Just similar to Nigerian prince email. Any of you have gotten those email in?
Yes,
Huh?
That was a very long time
Long
ago. in my
time ago.
day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I guess we were critical thinkers. We didn't fall. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to add on, like I teach home science, and home science is a branch which derives knowledge from all the other branches. All right, and we find the maximum application of critical thinking out here. I would just like to share one small little experience which a student had shared with me. So this child observed one day that the milk that was poured into the tea by the mother got curdled, and mummy said, "Oh, the milk has got spoiled. Now you run down, get the milk." So this child told me that I told the mother, "Hey, wait on, let's see whether the milk has actually got spoiled or no." And she removed the vessel from the refrigerator, boiled it, saw that the milk has not curdled, the smell was okay, appearance was okay. So she made the mother evaluate what all things the mother had put in the tea, which led to the curdling of the milk. And then they came to the conclusion that the ginger that was put was kept next to the lemon. And that is how the curdling took place. Now see how the child is applying in the field of home science. And here there's a integration of different branches which has taken place. There's chemistry involved, there's biology involved, and everything applied in home science.
So ginger leads to curdling.
No, it's
No, it's a
ginger
lemon.
and
Lemon.
lemon, which were kept together.
Okay.
That led to the curdling, and when that the heat was there, the milk curdled and the tea got spoiled. So
Interesting.
it found an application in the field of home science also.
In our grade 7 critical thinking class, we have this concept where if an information is published in a textbook, a particular textbook, will you blindly follow it just because it's there in your textbook, or will you question it? So I was just discussing this, and this student of mine, he went back and then he went to the library and he removed the same subject, different publisher, and then he came up to me and he said that, "Miss, in our school textbook this particular information is written, and in that textbook this particular information about the same topic is given. Which one of the two is more reliable?" And that made me actually think over and be very happy as well, because the child was actually applying what he learned in a critical thinking class, just not to accept information, rather question, research, and then come up to a conclusion of whether should they accept or should they further investigate.
So all I can say that you have done a wonderful job in making students critical thinking, because this is what is really critical thinking.
Absolutely.
Students are doing this, and that really glad to know this.
One example comes to my mind now that she's brought out the various facets. I think of Adolf Hitler, for example. Now, so many children hero worship him. I think it's the age or something, but they all go and read his autobiography and all that, and we are horrified because he's such an evil man.
Yeah.
But now I used to be in the past I used to say no, don't even go there. But now I encourage them to read about him or read about what he has done and all that, because we want them to form their own opinions also, and then come to a kind of, after evaluating everything, they themselves will realize that he was such a totalitarian kind of nightmare. So this changes the teacher also. I think somewhere, we also sometimes we kind of pressurize them to think in a particular way. So I think critical thinking has learning not only for students but also the teacher herself.
Yes.
Interesting. Anything from computer science, that any questions that you have come across in your subject? Do they question the concepts of computer science at all?
Yes, definitely. It is actually similar to math. So if I do a programming in one way, that can be also done in different way. So when I teach one concept, they go home, they check other language. Like for example, if I'm teaching Java, okay, and same code, if they want to write in Python, it's completely different way. But the answer or the output is going to be same. So then they come and they ask me, ma'am, when you write in Java, that time we write another statement here. And but when we write in Python, it is very shortcut way, very easy to understand. So then I have to explain them that that's a base. From that base, you are having this new updated feature of Python, which you are able to, do it very quickly, understand very quickly, and you are able to perform it. So that way of thinking, that I'm teaching one language, but they are going home and researching about a second language, and they are trying to do a program in that. That is very much useful, I think, and that's how critical thinking is used over there.
Interesting. And Nikita ma'am, Reena ma'am, anything on that?
Since you have asked me this question, then I would like to answer this way. The basic, since I'm teaching physics, and mostly I'm teaching physics across the grades out here. So the first thing, specifically by the time the children come to the 9th and 10th standards, they start selecting subjects. So like 9th, 10th, they have selected science if they have taken. So, and now they are exposed to the media, they're exposed to the can say to whatever they have the digital media they are having. So they very common question which I always face in the classroom is, Miss, in that textbook we are learning what kind of physics, I don't know, but is this actually applicable? Because now they are talking about quantum physics and all this, but then why are we learning classical physics, which is not not at all going to be like, after 2 years it's going to be obsolete for them, and they have to learn everything, on the start. So the first question, so my first answer out there, then it made me think. I really had to go back and think about it, why this question kept on coming to me, and then I had to actually make them understand, children, that anything, if you want to even develop your quantum physics, your basic classical physics is required, the base is required. So this way of your critical thinking, the way that children have started with, because this is the age, I feel, when they come up to 8th, 9th standard, they start thinking what is relevant for them. So even if they are taking up science, they are actually thinking, is this actually relevant for us? So any chapter we start, they said, is this really going to be relevant for us? Are they going to be helpful for us? And so they always have this kind of questions coming up. So I feel critical thinking plays a very important role out here, not only for the students as well as for the teachers also. So we also have to keep ourselves on checkbox. Yes, are we ready with all these kind of questions? And we also are able to do justice in the class, so that the children are taking it in a positive way, the whatever subjects they are taking up. It's not only physics, maybe they are taking math or they are taking economics or whatever. So because they are wanting a relationship between their subjects and the real world applications. They are looking for the real world applications into their subjects. So I really feel that teachers can only do justice when they can connect whatever subjects they are teaching, whatever topics they are teaching, if they connect it to the real world applications, give them a lot of examples out there why that particular subject is important. I feel this kind of it will do a justice for them. And critical thinking actually means, one of the things is to apply whatever they are learning to your real world application, then all it can help them out. So yes, this is
Interesting.
I get.
Reena ma'am, anything on that?
My views are similar to what Nikita Miss said, and in the subjects that I teach, that is biology and chemistry, students have started asking why for everything. As Nikita Miss said, they want something which has a real world application. It's not like, the earlier times that whatever is there in the textbook, we have to learn it just because we have to learn it. Now students want the application part. They want to know and test whether whatever is written in the text is valid in the present context or no. That is something, that change we have seen a lot these days. And thanks to critical thinking, as I mentioned earlier also, even any digital information that they have, they will now look into the facts because they have done that. What is a fact? What is an opinion? So they try to relate with that concept, especially my grade 6 students. So that is how it's becoming useful and finding an application.
Interesting. So one question that is coming to my mind is that we're talking about questioning, that student must question everything that they come across. But now you as a critical thinking mentor, so anybody can question, right? But what is the art of, how do you teach student to question? What are the aspects of a good question? And how do you go about teaching the art of asking good question?
Teaching,
बेटर क्वेश्चन कैसे, बिकॉज यही हमें सिखाना है. कोई क्वेश्चन तो एक छोटा बच्चा भी कर लेता है
Yeah.
कि why this happens, like my 5-year-old kid keeps asking questions, but his questions are not critical thinking. He's those questions are curiosity question that he wants to know more. Sometimes he does ask a critical thinking question. I'll give one example of that. So he once asked me that Papa, how are colleges built? I don't know how, because somebody told him that he'll have to go to college after the school. So he said, how are colleges built? So I said that first we hire professors, we design course, and we are building, then college is built. Then he asked, how was first college built? As the first college, same way we hired professors, and so where do you get professors? So professor also, they studied somewhere first in the college. Then he asked, then how did they hire professor for the first college? Right. Where did those professors study?
yes.
Chicken
Right.
or the egg kind of.
Yes.
Chicken or the egg? So that was again, I said, yeah, this is a critical thinking question.
Absolutely.
Because he's questioning कि हाँ वो तो ठीक है, but this was a kind of a contradiction. So yeah, so coming back to the question, what do you tell students to make their questions better?
Okay. How do I go about it is, I ask them, you have a piece of information. I tell them to read it 3 to 4 times. First time reading will just give you the basic information about, and that will give arise to a few questions. Then I ask them to read it again. Now when they're reading it for the second time, I ask them, now the question that erupted in the first time reading, is it giving you full depth knowledge when they are reading it for the second time? Now when they are reading it for the second time, for example, let us say that they are reading about atmospheric pressure and how our hailstorm form, and is atmospheric pressure playing an important role in the formation of hailstorm or snow. So first information would be, for them, it would be kind of vague information, probably first hand information, they had no idea. Then the question will come, how is a hailstorm formed? How is it different from the formation of snow? What is it that is making it? Then they go much deeper. Third reading should be more precise. It should cater to the objective of what exactly you want from that piece of information. Then they dive. Okay, hailstorm hai, so how is the pressure built up? From where is it actually getting applied? How is it very, very different? Is the wind current playing an important role? Is the temperature playing an important role? How is it that not everywhere we have hailstorm and not everywhere we have snowfall?
Right.
Why is it that it is happening only at one particular location? What plays an important role? Is the weather playing an important role? So these type of questions then come up in the third reading and third interpretation of the given one piece of information, and many layers of asking questions. That's how I go about it.
So it's about multiple reading and then finding contradictions, as in at which places, like you said,
Yes.
the hailstorm process we know, but why is it not occurring everywhere?
Absolutely. Why is it not happening? Why snow is not happening in Sahara Desert or Rajasthan? It can happen there also. But why is it not happening? Yeah, what in your future, let us say due to drastic climatic change, it does take place. Then why did it happen? Why did it not happen before? So they kind of then correlate things, and then they question the existing information, relating it to what is available, what they can get, and then apply it to it.
So very nicely is questioning the existing information in the context of what they have seen.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't match with that, they must question.
Yes.
For example, coming back to your ball question, that we said that everything has to fall down and gravity acts, but when it is opposite, is it acting or not acting? Interesting. Anything else?
I also do this 3 close reads, but in a different manner. But coming to this, I think we have to expose them to different texts actually. Because if you look at media literacy, the same event can be covered by different newspapers in different ways. So,
Right.
for instance, Harvard has come up with some material where they say that there's a newspaper which is very rightist oriented, for instance. So they cover it in a different manner.
Right.
Then the leftists cover it in a different manner, and the one which is kind of more balanced cover. So when you expose children to different texts, then children get a hang of what are they actually looking for, and then you use something like Miss has already said, those 3 close reads. Like the first time you're just looking at the overall picture of what that article could be all about. Then you delve a little deeper. And the third reading, you connect it to what you already know about the subject. So that gives them the complete picture, and then they're able to evaluate. So I think, less of teacher talk and more of reading on the by the students themselves.
So in your classroom, do you talk more or the student talk?
Now the student does.
Now the student does.
What is the percentage of you speaking and the time taken by you? Like 80-20,
earlier
70-30.
we used to do a lot of talking. Now we have become facilitators. Okay, so after teaching a concept, maybe for 10 minutes, we have some activities that will reinforce the concept, clarify their doubts, and promote their thought processes to ask questions. So it's like 10 minutes of our time and then 20 minutes of their time. So there's a drastic shift.
So 1:2. 10:20. Or
Because then we have assessment time also, last 5 minutes.
5 minutes has to be kept for the assessment.
Yes.
So assessment in this form, it can be in the form of your
Multiple
worksheet, multiple choice questions, or again high order thinking questions related to it, so we can start building upon to it. So it's there. So with the shift of the way the education is also shifting now, with the NEP coming up and NCF coming up, so definitely there's a shift that has happened. So yes, so that's how it goes about. So the role of the teacher is now not as a teacher. Now we have the role of a facilitator in the school. So yes, definitely there's a change. That's the reason why I feel that thanks to all the critical thinking, the way and the kind of the critical thinking has given us a platform. Our way of teaching in the classroom has also changed. So very good example I can tell you is that I have also learned, or I have also grown as a teacher, because thanks to the critical thinking for so many years we've been like in collaboration with it. And initially when I used to go to the class, I used to start with my heat chapter, like okay fine, what is the difference between the heat and temperature, the same old method we used to go about. But now with that example of when I say ask them, okay, first question, like okay, what is heat and temperature? Miss, दोनों तो एक ही है. अच्छा ठीक है, अच्छा दोनों एक ही है, no issue, right. The next thing that I do is I draw the picture of an iceberg and of a hot cup of tea, and actually it makes a difference in my 10th standard, the heat chapter, when you're doing calorimetry, and they will tell, obviously ma'am, the hot cup of tea will have a more amount of heat energy. And then it starts triggering my questions and follow-up questions, and they start triggering questions, and then they really come to the thing. Yes, no, it's a different concept. Heat is different and temperature is different. Maybe the hot cup of tea is having a higher temperature, but because the mass of your iceberg is more, and it doesn't mean that iceberg is at your temperature which is maybe at 0 degrees Celsius. That doesn't mean that doesn't have a heat energy. Molecules are there, they're moving, and that's how they realize, oh my god, yes, so iceberg is having more amount of heat energy as compared to a thing. So 10th standard also actually, I really feel that the way the classroom has transformed now, thanks to all critical thinking questions and the way we are now approaching. So now their approach and their way of looking things have also changed. So yes, thank you for all this.
How has it? But yeah, you have just started taking it. May not have much of as of now.
Yeah, but I can answer this.
Yeah.
How I have changed while teaching critical thinking is the example which I told you about online. using online websites. That's how I have also started thinking that when I get any call or any mails. Recently, I got a mail from Myntra by saying that, okay, you are the lucky winner, you have won this, and please click on the link here, write your details, fill up your details and submit. Now, I was like, okay, first thing I need to check, is it a valid one? So to check that, I called a customer care of Myntra. And then I asked them that, is there any prize or something? I'm a lucky winner here where I'm going to get some prize. So they clearly said, ma'am, there is nothing as such. If anything, we come up with such ideas, it will be on our website. We will not mail you. Personally, we will not mail you. So that's how I started thinking. Whenever I get such mails or call, first thing is I need to cross check, is it valid or not?
Right.
If it is not, then I'm not going to respond it. First thing, I will not even open that mail. Sometimes it happens that when you open the mail and then your the device is hacked. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So first thing, I will have a cross check.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it'll cut down on your happiness, like every time. कुछ आएगा mail लेगा नहीं तो गलत ही mail होगा.
I would like to add upon her how it helped me. Recently, it happened with me that I got a call and this person on the other side is telling me that, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I just happened to deposit 10,000 rupees in your account and can you please give it back to me? I have to give my driver my salary. And I think I was half asleep most of the time. After school, that's my peaceful time.
I can understand.
So I was like, okay, take care, I'll call you back. And then I kept the call. Then after an hour or so, I got the call again. And he's like, ma'am, aapne transfer abhi tak kiya nahi hai. I'm waiting for you to transfer me back. And I'm like, okay, fine, wait, let me see whether. And there was a message saying that this particular amount has been transferred. So first thing that hit me was that person sounded very, very worried and genuine. And I was like, okay, I should transfer it back. But then it struck me somewhere, that thought pulled me back. And I'm like, okay, आप मुझे एक 5 मिनट का टाइम दीजिए, मैं मेरे बैंक के एसोसिएट से बात करती हूँ कि कुछ कर सकते हैं क्या, मेरा वेबसाइट अभी मेरा सर्वर डाउन है. एंड ही इज लाइक, नहीं मैम बहुत अर्जेंट है, मेरा ड्राइवर इज ही वांट्स द सैलरी और टाइम नहीं है एंड ऑल दैट. I said, sir, अभी कुछ कर नहीं सकते, बैंक में पैसे आ गए हैं. I will talk to my bank manager and I'll get back to you. I'm not taking away your money and I do want your money. And then he's like, नहीं प्लीज आप ऐसा मत कीजिए. I said, ठीक है, आप शांति रखिए, आप अपना कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर मुझे भेज दीजिए, मैं देखती हूँ क्या कर सकती हूँ. The moment I countered questioned him and he's like, nahi. Then he started fumbling and he's like, nahi, ye wo hai. And then when his call got cut and I actually called up my manager, he said that मैम वो सिर्फ आपका एक मैसेज है, आपको कोई पैसा डिपॉजिट हुआ नहीं है. I'm like, oh अच्छा ठीक है. So then what should I do? Like immediately give me the number and then we will take forward. But thank God आपका सिक्स्थ सेंस जागा और आपने बोला कि नहीं मैं इमीडिएटली पैसा ट्रांसफर नहीं करूंगी. ऐसा अगर कर दिया तो बेचारा उसका ड्राइवर का पैसा अटका हुआ. आई शुड हैव गिवन हिम बैक. लाइक मैम ऐसा कुछ नहीं. द मोमेंट यू वुड हैव गिवन योर ट्रांसफर्ड वो आपके जीपे अकाउंट से लेकर ही वुड हैव cleared you to zero. He would have brought you back to zero. I said, thank goodness for me to actually question on the authenticity of the call. And that's what critical thinking did to me. So thank you. You saved my account.
So there is a bias to that, no? Linked to emotion and urgency. What is the name? That the driver को देना है salary नहीं.
Yeah. Emotional blackmail.
What is the name? Eighth standard.
Ethical dilemma.
Ethical dilemma is a bias.
I can't remember. So
appeal to emotion.
But I did not cater to his emotion. I was like, let me not get into that and give him all the Diwali bonus. Rather, I'll talk to my manager first and get back to work.
Right.
May I add something?
Sure.
Here, I'd like to talk about one of the biases is that confirmation bias.
Yes,
and I think we're all guilty of it because we all have our pet positions. The older you get, the more rigid in your viewpoints. And then we have, certain political parties or certain things that we support. And then we watch videos according to that. And your examples were spot on. I mean, they were so good, and you realize that your reading list or the videos that you watch all conform to a certain point of view. So we must get over that and move away from that. So that's a wake up call for, I think,
Right.
all of us.
Yes.
When you deliberately make a choice कि चलो opposite point of view भी देख लेते हैं.
हाँ,
Like,
yes.
otherwise we are
Exactly.
happy with कि whatever we are thinking is there is a kind of endorsement of that.
Yes. And then we are very happy, we surround ourselves with people who all agree with each other.
Right.
And we are all patting ourselves on our backs.
Right.
So that
What were the students' reaction to that?
they were also surprised, pleasantly surprised, and in the sense that they were like the example you gave also was very good. It was history, and
Yeah.
because history is a subject that is very polarizing. People either hate it or they love it.
Right.
Okay, so there were quite a few children. I said, you don't have to worry about my feelings. You go ahead and say what you like. And there were like two groups.
Yeah,
And
there were
they-
an actual polarized group were
Yes,
there.
yes, yes. And some of them said, Miss, it's useless. Why do we learn it? And
Ah.
they were very vociferous there.
Ah.
And the other group was like, though they were science students, they were interested in the, the artifacts and all those things. So it was an eye opener for me also and for them, because they also realized that, to be scientific, it doesn't, archaeology has both. It has science and
And
art.
history too.
So you don't have to, always look at subjects as watertight compartments. You can have a mix. So we are moving towards such a world.
Interesting. Okay, so more questions. So we have just finished first two questions in this entire deck. So,
Critical thinking has helped me question myself, question the content, and question my students as well.
how have you evolved as a teacher, like after you got into nitty-gritty of the critical thinking?
Yes, critical thinking classes has made me question myself, made me question myself as a teacher, made me question the content that I have, and made me question my students as well. It's a two-way thing. It's not just that the students have got the magic wand of asking question. I already had that one. I'm just sharpening my wand. So how it has helped me is when I have a piece of information, when I'm preparing myself for my class, not only I prepare for the set information, I go a bar beyond. I do my research based on that, do the facts, take opinions as well, because then I can the opinions that will come from the students will not generally align with my statement. So for that I prepare myself thoroughly, going maybe 3 or 4 questions beyond and above the context that I have. And then when I teach the concept in the class, when I teach, I take that 2 minute of pause and I ask them, now do you have an opinion on that or a question on that? And when they are asking a question, somewhere that deep down the line, I have prepared myself for their question to come, and I kind of find myself in a better position to, if not answer, at least touch their question and leave them on a cliffhanger so that they can go beyond the classroom and do their research. And then the next day, probably whenever they meet me, either in the corridor or outside the classroom, they do make it a point that they ask that question, Miss, yesterday we had this discussion and what is it? So that definitely helps me grow more, learn more, and become a better teacher.
Reena ma'am, would like to add?
Yes, I would like to add on to something that Suman Miss has already said. Like what I do now is I give them more of real world examples. All right, because that is something they're able to relate to and connect to. You just teach them something, say for example, some concepts related to biology or chemistry. That thing is a thing of the past, just giving them information. You have to relate it to the things that are happening around their world. That makes the knowledge reach to them in a much more better way. Plus, I have to prepare myself a lot for it because I don't know what questions will come from their end.
Right.
Because see, earlier it was very easy.
Now, do you ask more questions like when you're preparing?
See, it has become a two-way process. You give them real world scenarios, they have their own scenarios to discuss with you.
Okay.
So it is becoming a two-way process, and the more it becomes like that, the better position they are in to grab the information rather than rote learning. Then it's just, learn the definitions for the exam. That's a different story altogether. But understanding those definitions becomes much more easier when you do it this way. And critical thinking has helped me to achieve this goal and be a better teacher rather than the teachers who have taught me, I should say. Sorry to say, but that's the fact.
I would like to add to one example to what she said is exactly the way I have experienced this, like a ninth standard when we were doing, like the types of forces and the frictional forces. So the way she said it's becoming like a two-way processes nowadays. So when we were like, defining the frictional force, because something is they have done already in 7th standard, see how in the ninth standard still they have that one set of mind and they had. So, and then suddenly one child asked me, is frictional force present in the space? I said, what do you think? What your this thing? I said, ma'am, no, I don't think so, because space means nothing, no environment, no nothing. So I don't feel that there is a friction. I said, okay, have you read about the space stations where the astronauts go and they have to stay there for 6 months? And we recently had Sunita Williams staying out there for more than 6 months out there. So were she just floating out there? Was she holding something and she had to lift up something and were they doing that? They said yes, ma'am, they were there. So do you think friction was present out there? So I think this was, like how the two-way process way and the way we can connect to the real world situations and all that can make them think about the concept. Yes, like challenging it becomes for them out there.
I always keep thinking about this question, that how would the world look like 20 years from now, and how relevant would be critical thinking, or rather how crucial would be having critical thinking skills. So what's your thoughts on this?
As per me, after 20 years, if I think it's going to be more complex, complicated, because more technology, AI, you are going to see more biotechnology getting introduced. Nowadays, we hear the terms like deep fakes. Okay, so basically, it is going to be more helpful when you are actually going to think how to validate, to make a correct choice over there. Okay, so I think critical thinking is going to be very much helpful 20 years now also as well, because it's increasing.
Yes, Reena.
So, in support to what she's already said, we'll have more of machine-based skills. Already we have AI, we have automation everywhere. So it's going to increase. And critical thinking at that time would be the most important, essential human skill, which every individual should have. Because rest everything you have machines to work for. So where is the human component? It is here. And that is the time where the critical thinking is going to be the most useful human skill in our lives.
Yes.
In addition to this, I can only say that if this critical thinking, I think, should begin at the as early age as possible. Because then only, I think, by the time the child steps into your 5th standard, 6th standard, a child is capable to face the world, because the way the world is changing rapidly. So we can see what we were in 9th, 10th or college time. Now the child is in 5th and 6th, the same way matured, quite matured enough. So they are no more depending on their parents. So they are taking their individual calls and they are taking their individual decisions out there. So for making a correct decision, I think critical thinking should start at as early age, so that they can start think which is right, what is wrong. They can judge and they can go ahead. So, and as we are looking forward for the next 20 years, so yes, the only way to, give them that skill develop, it has to be as early as possible, at an early age. Then that's what I can add to it.
In fact, if we go back 20 years from now, I'll give you an example of telephones. Telephones were not that integrate part. I remember me calling on an STD with that time limit, and it started with ₹2, and we just used to say the keywords and keep. But cut to today. Mobile phones are everywhere, and we don't even realize it has percolated in our daily lives without even making a sound. So if I take you 20 years From now, critical thinking won't be critical thinking as such. It will be an integrate part of our daily lives, teaching, learning, inventions. I mean, think about it. We have nano chips ingrained in our brains. We have it in our wrists. There are pods there are artificial womb which is creating a living being. If that is happening now, 20 years from now on, critical thinking would be the next god for the lifestyle that is yet to come.
Interesting.
Okay, so to conclude, actually, I believe that I can't think far ahead, 5 years from now, leave alone 20, because changes are coming so
So fast.
quickly. Yes, I believe, you have all the data at your fingertips. So now the child that we are, training now has to really sift through that. So for that, critical thinking is absolutely, important. It is complete, it's inevitable. You have to teach, otherwise it's useless. I mean, what is he going to do rote memorization, or just, learning tables or this and that, because it's everywhere. So for that child now, critical thinking is of most paramount value, I think.
I think the core essence to what Madhvi Miss said is, yes, of course, embracing technology, going ahead with that, keeping the human touch. That's where critical thinking will keep the person grounded. At the same time, flying high.
Yeah. Okay. So we will shift to a different question, which we also at Open Door keep thinking that in a school we always teach concepts, give information, but in critical thinking we do the other way, right? Rather than teacher asking questions, student asks questions. So how do you educate parents, and what has been the parent reaction so far on this when they come to realize that hey, my kids are not studying a concept, they're studying something else which is a bit different.
I would like to add into this. I have actually a WhatsApp group with my parents. The children who have taken the critical thinking, I am in contact with their parents out here. This has been a practice that we have been following from the last 2 years, ever since we have started with the critical thinking skill development session in the school. So we have, like, whatever we are doing in the class, whatever activities we are doing and whatever discussion we are doing, I keep taking the snapshots and everything. I keep sending it in the group where the parents are also into it, and they see the things and then they send us the feedback. And we get a very good positive feedback, because the way one of the examples what she said is absolutely true, because we do have students who are normally very quiet in the class, and the parents have appreciated, saying ki, my God, I never believed, that is the thing, I never believed my son can stand up and speak. So that was the positive the feedback. They said, okay, my God, I never believed that my son can do this work, and they are he is speaking it out. I'm so happy for it. It's the way it is going on. So, and they get feedbacks from the students itself also, how it is going on. So that's why. So now they are open. The child is not fearless. They don't have that inhibition with them. That yes, I need to stand, ask questions. There's nobody, since they know that they are free to ask questions out here, so they know that we are not going to snub them down. Okay, fine. So they are quite confident now enough to ask questions and give reasons for particular instances why they believe for something, why they don't believe for something. The debate that we have, they are quite confident. So I actually had the debate, taken the video shoot and have sent it across. So parents have given a very positive feedback for it.
Interesting.
I have to add to that. One of my grade 8 parent and the open house had come to me, and he said that, ma'am, you were taking critical thinking classes, and my child, I didn't know this was also there in her. And I was like, what happened? So she said that a doctor had prescribed me one particular medicine, and I happened to take her along with me, and we went to the chemist shop. The chemist said that, okay, I'm giving you a different medicine, just that the name is different, but everything else is same. And that's where the girl jumped in, and she's like, no, give me the medicine what the doctor has prescribed. So he's like, nahi baba, khali brand ka naam change hai, baki sab same hai. Trust me, the parent told me that my girl took the ingredient, the components of the medicine, she researched, and then she verified whether it is good or bad. And then she said कि you have to buy or not. She did not let the mother buy that alternative medicine. So she's like कि miss पहली बार मैंने ऐसा देखा है कि वो literally she was arguing with the chemist and I was telling her don't do that, don't do that. I said, ma'am, that's what you're not supposed to do. Let her do it. Because that's where her curiosity and her inquisitiveness came into the picture, and that is what it'll take her to the next step. So parents are full in support with us, and they want their child to come up with more questions which are helping their child grow further.
Right. I like the fact that the child did not just say don't take this.
Yes.
She researched and
Researched,
ingredients.
yes.
I was not expecting that.
Even I was, in fact, I was also taken aback, and she's a bright student, no doubt about that. But the fact that she actually took the courage. Normally, children, we shoo them away, or we as a parent, we like, don't interfere, I'm the one who is knowing more. But this girl said that no, do not buy the other alternative medicine. Let me see what is there. And she, with all whatever information she had, source of information, she went through that. I don't know how did she verify it because I didn't get a chance to go back to the child, but I was very happy to know that she has actually taken up the courage to ask, inquire, and then move ahead.
Yes. Right.
Interesting. All said and done, it's also important that it is implemented. The critical thinking classes are implemented well in the classroom. These are not like a regular subject where you can teach something. There's more of a behavior that you need to develop.
Yes.
So far, what are the challenges that you have seen being a critical thinking mentor in your classroom?
See, one of the things that I have seen is that the kind of questions, you have to be able to direct the questions in the right direction. Okay, filter out questions which are irrelevant. That is one thing which the teacher has to do. Then secondly, we are catering to a diverse group of students. Okay, we have different students with different learning styles. So this kind of critical thinking has to be done in a way wherein everybody is able to understand. So that is another challenge which we face. And probably there are different environmental factors. Maybe a child is not in a mood today to do something. You have to let go at times. Okay, so these are a few challenges which I have faced as a mentor teacher for critical thinking.
So this
classes.
let go part is a very interesting tip for the teachers, because sometimes, I mean, we get so much angry that hey, my child is not
paying attention.
But yeah, he might be in a different frame of mind. That day may not be.
That day may not be his day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a challenge, but I think the teacher has to be really well prepared, because beyond the textbook, I mean, you have to come up with some real life examples, examples which are very current. And I use it a lot in civics also, because it's so dreary otherwise. So you take up like current affairs and so I mean, you have to be well prepared. There's no it's not the old style of, I mean, we're not doing that anyway, but here you have to be really on your toes, I think, adding to what she's already said.
So challenges that Reena Miss and Madhi Miss has said, I want to add to that is yes, when you are teaching a concept, when you are introducing a concept, it's just not about them asking any questions. It's about asking relevant questions or validifying their question as to whether it is a good question or whether it's just a superficial question. For example, there was this topic where we were talking about speed of cars in our grade 7. So I happened to give them a different question once we finished discussing that and we had some time in our hands. So I said, today the car is running on petrol, diesel, CNG. The research is going on whether to use water or not. What other element can you use as a fuel? How do you think future cars would look like? And I gave them some time to think, and then they all were like, Miss, we can have a sustainable manure ke liye we can think about that, and maybe biogas ko hum introduce kar sakte hain and all that. So that's how we have to keep pushing them and give them challenges so that they feel that they are empowered and they are important and they are very much a part of the discussion. So binding them together with all different thinking levels and thinking needs is a good chance to come up with that question and whether to, coming up as a
Right,
teacher,
right.
me also coming up with the situation and making them feel that, okay, this is important is also a task.
No, I actually agree to what Suman Miss and Madhvi Miss and Reena ma'am has said about it. Is exactly the same way that I also feel. The challenges that initially I also had when I went to go to the classes. How I used to wonder critical thinking kya padhana hai. Critical thinking is what is even I had, and with the notion the way the critical thinking is coming up now with the LEP coming up and all the changes that's happening in education system also. So yes, the critical thinking is becoming a part of the of our system now. Now we are talking about is your competency based education, where your critical thinking is one of the criteria of teaching in the class. So all our subjects are getting integrated with the critical thinking. So it's become now compulsory that we have to make our question paper also and align in such a way that it has to have certain components or certain questions based on the critical thinking. So initially it was very difficult for me also to how to frame a question. या फिर class में जाके क्या question पूछूं for critical thinking. That was just to be a very challenging for us, because they तो like normally अच्छा ये पढ़ा दिया इसके बाद okay fine you define this okay my evaluation is over. This is to be the scenario prior, but now I thanks to the critical thinking, I have also evolved from there where I was here. So now even now I have to prepare the way Madhvi Miss is saying. Yes, that is the thing, that we have to prepare ourselves. So whether we are taking a critical thinking class or whether we are taking a normal class, and there also when we are bringing in a critical thinking element into it, so we have to prepare things. We have to be on our toes and not just rely on what informations are there only in the textbooks, because we know now today's generation is not going to be only happy with what is there in our textbooks. So we have to be armed with all the kind of questions, thinking okay, they might ask this question, some past experiences or some latest informations that we have to bring into it. So we have to start building and frame questions, keep handy with us, and then that's how we have started giving them also the liberty. Okay, you ask your doubt, and then we start building questions onto it. Okay, fine, this is there, how do you go about for this? You give me the solutions first, or you think about what is there, and then I will, instead of me giving a solution, I believe that let them first think about it. Is it right, wrong? You give a solution, and then I can, as a facilitator, can help them to go ahead. And if I feel that it requires much more, in depth, because sometimes the discussion becomes such a hot discussions, then I really feel, then I said, okay, fine, let us give us time to each other. You go do research on so and so. I'll do a research on so and so, and next time when we meet, we'll take 5 minutes of our time, but then we'll have a little brief discussion about it. So that's how it has evolved for me also, and that's how my challenges has there. So for the critical thinking classes also, that is happening in the class.
So what I'm gathering, it's not about giving them ready-made answers. You're nudging them to kind of rethink or come up with the answers or come up with the raw answers by themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I think a welcome change that you are doing in your school.
I would like to.
Yes.
So basically, when I am taking up any, let's say, I am teaching them Java. Okay. Now the language which we are learning is basically to develop an app. Okay. So when I am going to teach one particular topic, I make sure that, okay, what are questions the students can ask? For example, I usually get a question, ma'am, where is this Java language used? So then I have to come to their level and have to tell them that, do you play Minecraft? So this Minecraft which you play is basically developed using Java. Then they start asking, then ma'am, what about iPhone? What about the iPhone or iOS phone? Which language do they use? Then I have to take them to that language, that this is the Swift language which we use basically. Okay. Then they get that interest to learn that particular language, because they think, okay, this is used in Minecraft, I play Minecraft. So if I learn this language, is basically I can create at least something basic game using that. So whenever I take up topic, I have to think what all questions are going to come to me on based on it.
Right. So you're thinking about the students' questions beforehand.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
basically, you have to be well prepared.
Right, right. How optimistic are you about the future of education in India? Question
As an
to me.
educator, as a teacher, we are hopeful, we are optimistic, but how do you want us to answer this?
The answer is the way you want to answer. As in, do you see the education landscape changing? So you have a you have a view of the school
definitely.
system, right?
Definitely.
I would like to answer that question. Let's start from the root grass, where when my parents went to school, they had an open classroom. They were probably under the tree, they were sitting and learning. When I went to school, mine was teacher speaking, student listening, and only the intelligent ones were asking questions. Rest all of us were hiding behind them and trying to just get the class passed by. But now, when I am teaching, the classroom has flipped. Students are not only learning just in the four walls; they are learning from every corner possible or every round possible. And in future, yes, India has a wide scope. Let's take the example of COVID. How many of us actually knew to take classes online? But now, online classes are very much part of our system. Even the remote village has online classroom facilities. So India is the ground where education system can go beyond the sky, and given the opportunities that students have and they're willing to take it up, yes, I'm very, very hopeful for the brightest future of education in our country, and we have the best brains and best minds that can be sharpened.
That sounds so assuring coming from you.
I would like to add on to what Suman Miss has said. We have NEP, which is in place now, right? This has changed the way education is imparted now. Okay, it's no longer a rote learning, it's something which the students are enjoying. Second, we have digitalization, which ensures that even the person sitting in a remote rural area also gets the content knowledge.
Yes.
We have educators who can sit in any part of the world and impart knowledge. So 20 years from now or whatever it is, we have a very bright future. Maybe by the time we retire, India would have been the first largest economy.
Yes.
So, based on the strength of our knowledge, and critical thinking is the way forward.
From
Interesting.
teacher-centered education is now moved to your skill-based, so now with the shift that we can see in the education system that is happening out here, yes, now it's more focused on the skills of the children. So I really feel it's good to see on one side the way the positive thing changes are bringing, because nowadays you don't see 10th standard children after 10th standard going to your normal colleges. I don't see. The last 2 years that has a great decline in that thing. पहले हमारे टाइम पे क्या था, अच्छा परसेंटेज मिला तो you have to definitely go to the science college and you have to do this thing. अगर कम परसेंटेज मिला you go to commerce. But nowadays it's not like that. It's not only science and it's not only commerce. Now the field has become quite open, and now children, yeah, correct. So now children are even ready to go to your autonomous colleges instead of going to this colleges. They prefer studying into autonomous colleges plus doing your part-time jobs also. I'm happy to see that the way they are endeavoring themselves into different things, try and error के हिसाब से भी करते हैं. That's fine, they are doing it, but they are getting experience, your first-hand experience, and this is what the new education is giving them, that empowerment to them, to the children, to decide themselves for what they need to do, do what they like to do, instead of just that old tradition method of okay, only do science, only commerce. But today when the children come back, and I have my ex-student coming in, Miss, I have started, she has just finished her graduation, and she said, I am from last 2 years, I have it was a small startup, but now I have my own bakery, and I was so happy to see that the girl that who never spoke in the class, she is now having her own bakery, she is doing her own startup she's having. Similarly, there are so many students who come, my ex-students, they come, because this is thanks to the way the education system is shifting, the skills are getting promoted. There are students who are good in singing. So I will not name any college because I don't want to publicize. But he took up the graduation in music.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is now it's available, which I don't think so was available to us in the last 20 years. But now they are doing their graduation in music, and that boy is still studying. He's not studying. Studies are not completed, but now he is getting offers to go about and do his shows.
Hmm.
Just I think he's in 13 or 14, but he's doing shows now. So that's great to see that way the education is giving and shifted things, and now they are interested in doing their own subjects which they are liking, and the skills developments is taking place along with it. So yes, good. I can see a very positive approach that's happening in the education system out here.
Okay, so they're breaking the set boundaries of the career selection. right?
Exactly.
Like, rather than just taking the set rules like you take science for this percentage, commerce. 20 years down the line, we'll see like talented people across the domain and in the different skills.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
I agree with most of the things that they've said, but I want to sound a bit of a cautionary note. Because I'm not all that optimistic, but
Yeah.
just yesterday I read an article and the NEP, looks beautiful on paper. It's really glossy and full of what have you. But the way it's been implemented and the way it's going, like a bullock cart, it's slowly being implemented. That's not really. And you must remember that India is not only the cities.
Yes.
So our rural areas are far from, the digitalization, so to speak, hasn't even percolated down there. So I think we have to be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I think we have to work towards it.
Yeah, I
And
think
we
the
all
basic
should be-
must hear this. We'll put this definitely.
And we as a teacher should be ready to accept the change, because that's what Nikita Miss said, that we have to first unlearn a lot of things that we have already learned, ready to learn new skills, new challenges, and then implement. So that unlearning part is what is the crux of
Right,
everything.
Right. So as a teacher, and at the beginning of the discussion also, we touched upon this point of learning by the teachers.
Yes.
Because as a teacher, we have that expertise. We are masters of physics or masters of mathematics. But when we read grade 6 books also, we realize that hey, there are some interesting facts that we didn't know about.
Yes.
And teachers have to be open to explore that.
Yes.
And if they think that I am masters and I know this, then learning would
Then it
stop.
stops.
Stop.
over
It
there.
stops.
Yeah.
Then
there.
it stops. Then you are rigid. And if you are rigid, you can't.
You
move
can't
ahead.
grow. The
Yeah.
growth
Can't
is
do-
stopped.
Yes.
So it's definitely.
Okay. So, the second last question.
We have two.
Yeah. Would you describe a day?
One left. One left.
One left. This one, okay, this one, let us hear this question. And if you feel like you can add to this, you can share your thoughts. What do you wish your students to be in the future? Would you like to describe a day in life of the future of this critical thinking kid 10 years from now?
Can I ask how, in what way you are asking this question? Yeah, because it's a critical thinking kid means which, it's like one specific kid or you're talking in general?
In general, like how do you envision a child who is learning critical thinking skills? How would he or she behave 10 years down the line? So 10 years down the line, they would be they'll be doing some profession. Then 70, not profession, maybe college they would be in. They might be in profession also.
Of course,
Yeah.
10 years down the
Can
line
be,
depends
yeah.
on
Yeah.
which grade we are talking about.
So sixth grade, they are
18th
still
grade.
studying.
18th grade would be a profession only.
I would want my student to grow, think, but not lose the touch of humanity. Because being humble, being human is what is required. The child will be technologically advanced, the child will have all the knowledge, because with great knowledge and great power comes great responsibility. And today power is in the hands of
Right.
students. They have technology. With critical thinking, they will have the ability to question. So of course they'll gather and they will touch upon a wide variety of information across them. They'll question. Probably they'll be good developers and startup owners, and I can say president of India. But let's not forget that we are still human beings breathing the same air that the other person is breathing. So I want my students from 10 years from now to be the most advanced human being, but human being.
And I think that is the most important thing.
Yes.
Because technology may take us in very different direction, and I mean, we have to be rooted to the
Sometimes students, when they are blinded by information, then they think I am the one, and the moment that comes that okay, I have the source of information and whatever is coming is not right, then they lose the essence of being human. So they have to be human first, then they can go ahead in whichever direction they want to go. Sky is not the limit.
Adding on to this, I think I really appreciated you saying that. But I feel that there will be more peace in India if we really have this, because right now I think a lot of our behavior is so irrational. We fight over religion, caste, creed, and all that. And if children are taught to think critically, maybe they'll go beyond and transcend all these.
They need
pettiness
to
and
be
behavior.
resilient about
So I
this
think
things.
we can hope to have a much more, kind of
Calmer
calmer
society.
society, perhaps.
Yes.
So, what is the go-to mantra that you would give to a student in your critical thinking class?
Just 4 keywords I have.
Yeah.
That is question, explore, decide, and then reflect.
Wow.
Interesting. I think
That's
you've
good,
summed up really well. Question, explore, decide,
and then
then
reflect.
reflect. Yeah. So question, explore, decide. This is the process of decision making, and also improving on the previous.
That
so
is
when
when
you
you
reflect. Yeah. So we have reached to the end of our podcast, and it was fun, and it was so much engaging, and also learning experience for me, because rarely do we get, or not very often do we get to listen to the people who are really making a difference inside the classroom. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your ideas, your thoughts. And I'm sure that the audience watching this podcast and the teachers all over India watching this podcast will have a lot of takeaways from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.